Hello and welcome to this Thorntail and MicroProfile demo. In this demo we're going to show how MicroProfile applications integrate with third-party services through the Open Service Broker in OpenShift. The Open Service Broker API defines an abstraction through which applications can access and use any number of services available across cloud platforms. The OpenShift Service Catalog exposes services directly through this API, and so in this demo we're going to provision an instance of Microsoft Azure's Cosmos database service. We'll then dynamically link the service to our application. This demo features a web-based front-end implementing a popular time-wasting app from the 1990s that you will all be familiar with, and uses a Thorntail backend to record scores into Azure and Cosmos DB through the Open Service Broker API. You can find the link to the code and instructions on getting started at the bottom of the screen for those who want to play along at home. So here we have our basic RESTful application backend. It's sitting on the /API endpoint. We have three different endpoints sitting on API/scoreboard, one for getting all the scores, one for adding a new score, one for clearing the scores, and the UI uses this to do its thing. So this goes through the Scoreboard Service. So Scoreboard Service is simply an interface with those three endpoints. And then we have two backends for this interface. So we have a default one based on JPA, marked as default so that it gets injected by default when no other scenario is in effect. Then we have the Cosmos backend, which has a special annotation which causes it to be injected instead whenever an environment variable is set to production, which you'll see later on in OpenShift. So we have our two backends. This Cosmos backend connects to Cosmos through a URI, which currently is hard-coded. So we're going to really quickly change that. Use the power of MicroProfile to inject a config property of, we'll give it a name of scoresDB URI, and we're going to replace that hard-coded value with our now dynamic value, which will be pulled in from a number of different places, either the environment variables or system properties or even Kubernetes config maps. In our case, we're going to be using an environment variable because the service broker will automatically create this for us when we deploy Cosmos DB. Okay, so our app's ready to go, but before we deploy the app, let's deploy the database itself. So over here in OpenShift, I've already created a MicroSweeper project. I've deployed I have a deployment configuration. I haven't deployed the application yet because I haven't built it yet. So what we want to do is deploy Cosmos DB first and see how that linkage occurs. So back on the home screen here, you can see through the Azure Service Broker a number of different services for Azure. We're going to deploy the Cosmos DB service with the MongoDB API. So we'll click here, we'll step through this wizard, which is a very easy way to deploy services through the service broker. We'll add it to our existing project. We'll set a couple of defaults, consistency level. We need to give an IP address range of who can access it, which we'll just use everyone. We also need to specify a location. I'll give it East US. This is the region in the Azure cloud that my database is running in, and then the name of the resource group, which is Sweeper Demo. You can create new resource groups to house this. I've already created one on Azure, which you'll see later on, but that's the name of it. Okay, so I click Next here, and now the service broker in the back end will go off and start provisioning my Cosmos database. While I'm doing that, I want to link this database to my application, so I'll need to create some artifacts in the MicroSweeper project in OpenShift to do that. So I'll create a secret, and I'll click Create, and then the service broker will go off in the back end and start provisioning this. If you look at the Azure portal, you'll be able to see that being provisioned, but we won't do that for the moment. We'll just go over here and check out our project here, and you can see our new provisioned services are pending, so it takes a couple of minutes. So I'll fast forward the video so we can wait. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes, but once that comes up, we'll be able to do some interesting stuff. Okay, so now that Cosmos DB is provisioned through the Azure Service Broker, I want to link that to my application. So in the provisioned services here in OpenShift, we have a couple of different things we can do. We can check out the credentials and connection information that are exposed through the binding. If I click the reveal secret here, you can see the actual values, and these are the ones that we want to dynamically link to our application. So to do that, we'll click Add to Application. Notice the URI field here is the one we're actually interested in for our code to use. So when we click Add to Application, we can select which application. It's basically just going to edit the deployment config and add in either environment variables or mount a volume with a secret in it. We'll just go with environment variables, and we'll give it a prefix of scoresdb underscore, which it will then use to prefix each of the environment variable names when it's injected into the deployment config for the application. So I have the prefix here. I click Save, and it's automatically provisioned. I can go check out the deployment config for the MicroSweeper application, and you can see the environment variables that I have predefined here. One called environment. This is the one that allows me to select the proper backend. So I'm going to change this to production. And then we also have environment variables that are brought in from the provisioned service through the service broker with this prefix. So if I click Save here, now I'm ready to go. So I have the environment setup that I want. I have the credentials injected into the deployment config, and all that's left to do now is to actually deploy the application. So let's go ahead and do back. So I'll switch back to my IDE here, and I'll open up a new terminal, and I'll just do a Maven clean package. Like I did earlier, and then I'll deploy it using a binary build from OpenShift. So I'll fast forward this. It shouldn't take too long. Okay, so the upload completed. So let's switch back over to OpenShift, and we can see our build is now in progress. And once that completes, we'll be able to exercise our new application. Okay, so I changed the code, I built the project, I created the container image, and now this container image has been deployed to the OpenShift cluster, and it's now running. So let's go ahead and check out the application. It still has my red background from before. I'll just go ahead and play the game a couple times. We'll create one for Almond Warlock here in the scoreboard, and I'll play it once more. And we have Prairie Chatter here as well in the scoreboard. So what's happening on the back end is those are then being persisted into the Cosmos database. So let's go check that out. So on the Azure portal homepage here, I've already logged in. I'll go to Azure Cosmos DB. I have a new instance that was created as part of the service broker. I can then browse the data inside of the new collection here that's been created. Here's the collection. I can do a query and just query for everything, and we should get those two values that we just created by playing the game. So I executed the query, and you can see the two documents here in the database, one for Almond Warlock and one for Prairie Chatter. If I go back and play once more, I get Candle Crest, so let's check and just make sure Candle Crest is in there. So I'll just execute the query again, and we should have a third entry here for Candle Crest, and indeed we do. So in summary, it's very easy to link applications to external third-party services like services on Microsoft Azure from MicroProfile applications, and dynamically link those services into your application using MicroProfile and the Open Service Broker. So I hope you enjoyed the demo. For more information about these concepts, check out the link in the first slide, and also check out thorntail.io and microprofile.io for more information on those frameworks. Thanks for watching.